Good afternoon, everyone. Recorded by Richter, back with another piece for you. Today I've got another film review or film discussion, I guess, because I'm going to try to do it without any real spoilers or anything like that, so you can go see it because the movie is still in theaters right now, and that is for a film called Eddington by film director Aster. And before I get into that, I would just like to say that I also have my piece available on Bob Villain that you can go see right now. I took my time with that one, and I'm really proud of how that one came out. So if you go check that one out, it's on my page, and you can see that. They're a London-based band from the UK. And yeah, so anyways, back to this. So Eddington is a new A24 film, which continues my belief in how compelling of work that film company is pumping out, and the broad scope of stories that they're telling. And this one just kind of reiterates that for me. I had just done a piece recently on the movie Opus and how interesting that one was, which was another A24 film. And this one is a kind of a modern day Western, if you will. It's a dark comedy, which is right in my wheelhouse. I love dark comedies. And it takes place in New Mexico right at the beginning of the pandemic. So basically, the gist of this is it stars Joaquin Phoenix, Pedro Pascal, Emma Stone, Luke Grimes, Deidre O'Connell, Michael Ward, and Austin Butler. And Joaquin Phoenix plays the sheriff of a small town in New Mexico. And in this small town in New Mexico, Pedro Pascal plays the incumbent mayor whose election or whose term is coming to an end and is now up for re-election. And basically he was going to be running unopposed, it seemed, at the time. But at the start of this COVID and new mandates coming in, you have this old school kind of sheriff in Joaquin Phoenix who is avidly against the COVID mandates, doesn't want to wear his mask, that type of person. And he decides to run against him because he wants to be like kind of oppose all these things, and so kind of gets lost in this campaign and starts like forgetting about his sheriff duties in a sense. And it's funny because there is like, he does care about the community, Joaquin Phoenix's character, but it's a great look at how people during that time, during that uncertain time, were so indoctrinated by so many different spaces online, and how there was so many things and people that popped up during that time that were really just trying to make a buck and were selling people all these different lies and conflations of the truth and divisiveness, and as a way to enrich themselves. And I think it does a great job of detailing that, and on both sides of the aisle too. It shows you, and I'm so guilty of this. Twitter is a great example of a place that does this to us. And so it does a great job of laying out people's ulterior motives behind some of the things they get involved in. You know, like there's some young kids in the town that are getting involved in the Black Lives Matter movement because it details when George Floyd was murdered by the police, and how some of them were kind of getting into it more for this girl that was involved in it than actually caring about the cause at hand, and how much of that was happening during the pandemic. People were being a spectacle on social media to feel like they were part of a movement or a group and trying to fit in somewhere, and how susceptible we are all to this. But anyhow, so Joaquin Phoenix is the sheriff of the town. His wife is played by Emma Stone, who is kind of this reclusive character that you're aware that there's some trauma that's happened to her. That's pretty clear from the early part of the movie, and it kind of gets unveiled as the story continues, which I won't go too deep into. Her mother is played by Deidre O'Connell, who does such a fantastic job in this movie playing this mom who is always on Facebook and buying into all these conspiracy theories on Facebook, and she really knocks it out of the park, because I know people that are like this. I've had friends whose parents are like this, and she does a great job of playing that type of character. And then there's also Luke Grimes and Michael Ward, who play the two deputy sheriffs in that work underneath Joaquin Phoenix's character. And then Austin Butler, who plays one of these online figures that is like starting this movement and trying to get people in to join him, almost like an occultish type of personality. And it just does a great job of showcasing how people can go down that rabbit hole and how it can take you away from your humanity and how it can make you believe things that aren't actually true, and the lies that we tell ourselves to make ourselves feel better up here because there's something that we don't want to face or we're too afraid to face it. And man, I've been guilty of some of these things for sure. So I totally understood the messaging there. And there's definitely hilarious parts of it. Like the movie's very funny, but then there's also very dark parts. And I want to applaud Ari Aster for his filmmaking skills in this movie. There is some awesome tracking shots. There is some great action sequences. There's awesome cinematography, and I wanted to make sure I read that off real quick. The cinematography was done by Darius Kadoji, and the film was edited by Lucien Johnston, music by Daniel Pemberton and Bobby Krillick. I just wanted to make sure that I read their names off there. If you're unfamiliar with Ari Aster, he's also done the movie Hereditary and Midsummer, which I thought were two compelling horror films, but also landed in that dark comedy space where there was funny parts about those movies, even though they were really demented and disturbing horror flicks. And he's done other movies too that I need to go see after this that I haven't seen. I haven't seen The Strange Thing About the Johnsons, so I think that might be what I watched today. And then there's also Beau is Afraid, which was the first time he worked with Joaquin Phoenix a couple years ago in 2023. And I haven't seen either of those ones yet, so I definitely want to check that out. Ari Aster is another filmmaker who's around my age, just like I've been praising Ryan Coogler. He was just born a year before me. He was in 86. And so I'm really inspired by these people that are in my age group that are making these really compelling pieces of film and art. And I think it's definitely one to go see in the theaters. It really is a cool one to hear on the sound system and everything. I've fallen in love with going to these theaters ever since Ryan Coogler's Sinners came out, because I just think he did such an awesome job with an original story, doing the whole thing on film. Rolled out for the film, he really got people excited by like deep diving on his different types of film. He did this piece for Kodak where he talked about all the different kind of films there are and the different aspect ratios. And I thought it was cool that Sinners was like one of the first movies, I think it was the first movie, to have changing aspect ratios throughout the film to add to dramatic effect. So in scenes that you wanted to really focus in on, all of a sudden the screen is getting bigger like this. And I thought that was a really cool touch in Sinners, as well as the cinematography. And same here with this movie, Eddington. And I really got to commend all the acting performances of this movie. I thought that Joaquin Phoenix was brilliant. I thought Pedro Pascal was brilliant. Luke Grimes was hilarious and brilliant. Michael Ward, amazing. Emma Stone, amazing. Austin Butler, amazing. Emma Stone has really taken an interesting and weird path in her career, and I applaud her for that. She's definitely chosen some strange, compelling roles, and I think that that's really cool of her. So I really can't say enough good things about this movie. It does give you a little bit of, I mean, not every movie is just for entertainment. You're gonna feel uncomfortable in certain scenes in certain movies, and this movie does definitely make you feel uncomfortable because it takes you back to that place of the start of the pandemic when isolation was such a hard pill for a lot of us to swallow. And for me, I know as an alcoholic, I'm 2.5 years sober now, but that ramped my drinking up big time. And my drinking went through the roof during that time because you were just sitting at home and there was nothing to go out and do. And I'm such an outdoors person. I like being out of my apartment and out and about. And it took me down to like an unhealthy place. And it's taken me sobriety and therapy and all this other stuff to get myself back to a better place. And even then, I'm still guilty of going on Twitter and mouthing off and letting my ego run wild. I think we all are guilty of that. And to prepare for this review and discussion, I went online and I watched a interview with MovieWeb that they did with Aster. I'll link the MovieWeb interview into my description so you guys can go check it out. And he basically said that that's what this movie came from. He was like, this is basically a movie written by Twitter. He was like, during the pandemic, I was constantly scrolling Twitter and it was just filling my head with so many conflicting thoughts and ideas. And he's like, I knew then that I wanted to make a movie about it. And I just thought it was a great choice to turn this into like a modern day dark comedy Western. It seems through his interviews, and I've watched a little bit of a podcast that he did with Bill Hader for A24, where they talk about different Westerns and stuff that they liked and different other movies that inspired them growing up. And so I thought it was cool that he was able to kind of wear some of his influences on his sleeve throughout this film. And yeah, just a great, compelling movie that I would highly recommend you guys go see. Aside from that, I definitely want to get back on here with some more book reviews. I haven't done a book review in a while. I just finished The Artist's Way, which is kind of like a course / book about unlocking your creativity. So I want to get on here and talk about that. I'm reading a few more that I'm almost done with that I will be on here to talk about. And obviously more artist highlights. Like I said, I have a piece out right now on Bob Vylan that I'm really proud of. I gave some history on the influence of punk rock and reggae music in the UK in the 60s and 70s and beyond, and how it came from Jamaica and the Caribbean and kind of worked its way over through migration and the colonization of Jamaica, and how that influenced it, and how punk rock in Detroit, where I'm from, was influenced heavily by the civil rights movement. And so I just wanted to incorporate that all into the piece, because I think that these pieces are a good way to tell history while you're talking about the things that entertain us at the same time. So that's where I'm at with it today, and I will be back soon, and that's what I got. Peace.